Welcome back, boys and girls. This is the Carla and Crappy Show, week number 1. Everybody down there, say hi to Carla down there in Nashville.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. We're 24 hours away. 24 hours!
24 hours away from Carla's personal traffic hell, because you got to be like right next to Vandy when that game starts, right?
Yeah, I am. The game kicks at 8:15 Central. It's 9:15 Eastern for television purposes.
Mm-hmm.
I have a rehearsal at the church I attend is right across the street from the stadium. It starts at 7:15. And we actually sell our parking lot for the game. So they're blocking off like a little tiny space for all of us to park in. Yeah, getting in probably won't be a huge deal because I can go around the back way, but getting out, last year it took me 2.5 hours to get home.
Too late to change churches?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, I better not put that on. That better not be on the interwebs. That's just, yeah. No, I will be there tomorrow night, Dawn. I promise.
We won't tell anybody. We should actually probably. Well, actually, there's one. If you watched this last year, you know there were a couple teams that we relentlessly plugged just out of our own personal preferences, and we're not going to do that, especially since Carla pointed out that I've mentioned Ohio State in the previous show 32 times. Was that what you counted? I
might have exaggerated that a little, but you know.
We're not going to mention that Ohio State plays Buffalo and that who do we think is going to win that? Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Yeah. Okay. We're not gonna bring that up. We will, however, since this is coming up and it's right in your backyard, we will start with Ole Miss at Vandy. This, of course, is a night game. It's an SEC game, season opener. National television audience. Ole Miss is a 3-ish point favorite. Carla, who you got?
It's a pretty good line, actually. I like that line for that game. Because if you had to talk about two SEC teams that are kind of right in the middle of the pack that are really evenly matched, that's what this game is. Mm-hmm. It's really, when you look at it on paper, Ole Miss is the favorite. They're the team that has 15 returning starters. I mean, that's experience. And they signed the nation's #1 overall recruit in defensive end, Robert Ndici. I can never say his name properly. Robert Ndici. There we go. Wow. The biggest problem that Ole Miss has is that they don't have depth, but it's the first game of the season. They don't need depth right now. Right. Ask me 3 weeks in, and that might be, a stumbling block. But in week 1, that's not really an issue. So on paper, you pick Ole Miss, but I like Vandy in this game simply because they had this stage last year. They played on this Thursday night. I know this because I was stuck in that traffic jam at the end of the game. But they played South Carolina last year. They played them tough at home. South Carolina was a good team. They only lost that game by 4, and they held the lead for quite a while because I was actually monitoring. Sorry, Don. I was monitoring the game during rehearsal because everybody was getting excited in my section because Vandy was up until like the 4th quarter of that game. You
probably shouldn't change churches if you can get away with that.
That's true, yeah. I'm constantly checking Thursday night football scores while I'm sitting in rehearsal. It happens. But, I mean, there's some big questions this year at Vandy with a new quarterback coming in. He was a 2-year starter at Wyoming, but does that mean anything? This is SEC. And yeah, there's been some pretty public off-field issues with Vanderbilt that's going to cost them their second leading wide receiver, who's obviously facing some very serious charges. So you're looking at it and you say Ole Miss, but I don't think Vandy lets it happen 2 years in a row. I just don't. If you saw James Franklin this year, I love James Franklin. He's part of the reason why I adopted Vanderbilt. He jumped off a cliff at a coach's retreat this year. He danced a jig before a rehearsal that became like the GIF to end all GIFs here in Nashville. Right. I don't know. I think this is a signature game. If they're going to get out of playing in the Music City Bowl, which they want to do, they have to win this game, period. So I think they win.
I am a fan of home openers. Obviously, as many of you guys know, I travel to Columbus and I do all that stuff. And in some cases, in my case, those home opening games, they're not the best matchups. In this case, Vandy's at home. It's at night. These are on paper, Ole Miss is the favorite, but as you said, the line is tight enough And I think the Commodores can parlay that into pulling off a win for their first game, their first SEC game, and maybe finally get their ticket out of the Music City Bowl. Obviously, a lot of stuff that they have to do that. But I also am going with Vanderbilt to win on Thursday night. We sort of stay with the SEC and the ACC, not the AAC, the ACC. When we look at Georgia at Clemson on Saturday evening, Georgia is a 2-ish point favorite. And unlike the first game we talked about, this is a matchup of two top 10 teams. Carla, what do you think?
Can I flip a coin? I mean, seriously.
Sure.
Yeah, please flip.
Okay. No, I've got a quarter.
You got a quarter?
Yeah, heads, tails, call in the air. Oh, God, that made an awful noise. Who do you got?
If it's tails, it's Georgia.
Tails, yep.
It's Georgia. Okay, that's too bad because I think I'm probably actually going to pick Clemson. But you see, that's kind of that's the problem with all of this. And you know, I don't know. It's Taj Boyd and that defense that we all remember, but that defense that we all remember, is it really back? Georgia's used to the high caliber competition, and we all know how Clemson's itself. Mm-hmm. And it's a huge first game. You know, and I'm going to steal this from somebody else who mentioned this about the fact that Clemson needs this game. Because if they lose this game, they're pretty much it would take a lot for them to get back in the national title hunt. Even because if there's it's the ACC. It's not the SEC. You don't have the strength of the schedule behind it. I think Clemson needs this game more, and it's at home. And I think for me, that's the deciding factor here. I think this is going to be another one of those LSU. I think we're going to get another version of that bowl game, really. And that would be great. I would love that. So I'm going to go Clemson right now, but ask me again tomorrow.
I'm probably not going to ask you again tomorrow, but I feel the same way. And this is going to be a repeat of what I mentioned for Ole Miss and Vandy. The atmosphere at Clemson is nuts on a normal Saturday afternoon. This being at night, this being an opponent that's pretty much across the board top 5 in the country. This being, as you mentioned, a very important matchup. I don't think that gets lost. Certainly doesn't get lost on the fans who will fill the other Death Valley. I don't know how many. There are too many Death Valleys.
Too many pits, too many Death Valleys. Yeah.
Right. But I see Clemson winning this game. Going to be a tight one, and definitely going to be one that I'm going to watch when we get home from our game on Saturday afternoon. But yeah, I'm going with the Tigers on that one.
The other interesting thing about this game, I'm just thinking about this now, is that Georgia actually plays South Carolina next week. So talk about a heck of an opening.
Yes.
First 2 weeks. So that might parlay a little bit more into Clemson's favor too, because Georgia's had a lot to prepare for in the off season. So maybe that helps. I don't know.
That might help. And also, if I didn't say this during the previous show, I meant to. Just the notion of whichever team wins the South Carolina State Championship, whether that's the Gamecocks or the Tigers, got to figure either one of those teams is going to be a BCS bowl bound at the end of the season, depending on how that one goes.
Yeah.
We next go West Coast, where the team we all love to bag on, Boise State, visits Washington, who's the 3.5 point favorite. Carla, what do you think?
Can I continue to bag on them some more?
Sure.
Because again, this is another one on paper that everything says Boise. They're very highly ranked. And to be perfectly frank, this is a game that Boise can't afford to lose, because Washington is their only AQ conference opponent all season.
Yep.
So if Boise loses this game, they're pretty much would take a miracle to get them back into a BCS national title hunt. I'm not saying they wouldn't get into a BCS bowl, but to play for the national title, if they lose this game, they're done.
Yep.
But the interesting fact in this is that, and I'm stealing all the stuff tonight. Sorry. I stole this out of the Athlon magazine. It happens. And this is a remarkable statistic that Boise State has lost just 2 games in 4 seasons when there's a returning starting quarterback.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
And they have a returning starting quarterback this year. So that's, again, it looks Boise, but Washington was the team last year that nobody could figure out. They had all the tools, they had all the weapons, and it just, I don't know, it didn't work. And so they brought in a new quarterbacks coach. They're going to try with an up-tempo offense. They have a ton of experience coming back. They're opening a brand new facility, which is gorgeous. It's not quite Oregon status, but it's still a gorgeous facility. And you know what? You got to go out on a limb sometimes. I think somehow, some way, Washington finds a way to win this game. I don't know why. I just that my gut says Washington's going to say, you know what? It's about time we put something together, and they win.
I love the experience that the Huskies have in this game. And certainly you can talk about the experience at Boise State and the fact that they have a returning quarterback. I was not aware of that stat. That was a nice theft by you. But again, and maybe I'm putting a little too much emphasis on home teams and home openers. But I see Washington winning this game, and that has only a little to do with the fact that I just don't want Boise State to win the game. So I'm going with the Huskies there. This was one of our picks for a conference game of the year. We wrap up this week's show with the Ohio University Bobcats visiting Louisville, Kentucky, and Teddy Bridgewater and the Cardinals. Louisville's a 20-point favorite in this game, which probably sounds about right. Carla, what do you think?
You see, I knew I would find a way to talk about Penn State in this show somehow. So here's where it is. So last year, and I mentioned this in the preview show too, or the conference game of the year, one of those things. I don't know. We did 7 shows in 2 hours last week, so I'm confused. But Ohio is the team that went into Happy Valley last year, and it was an emotional situation at Penn State, and they went in there and they just flat out won the game. Now, they didn't win the first half. They won the second half of that game. First half went to Penn State. But the fact that they had the mettle to kind of come back and win that game and just kind of, squash that entire stadium was pretty remarkable. And they had a heck of a season last year until they started getting hurt.
Yep.
They were 7-0 and then lose 4-5, and all of a sudden totally fall off the radar. And I love Frank Solich. I mean, how could you not love the video of him on the tricycle? When I found that, it was just
great stuff.
I mean, that's just internet gold. That stuff just happens. And Ohio is expected again to be a good team in the MAC. They're right up there with Bowling Green. They got a senior quarterback coming back, who was good last year. So I give Ohio a chance in this game, but it's Louisville. Sorry, we've been through this. It's
you even live down there.
I know. I'm still a Midwestern girl at heart. I can't bring myself to do that. But anyhow, Louisville still finds a way to win this game. I think it's going to be a lot closer in the first half than anybody is anticipating, and then I think in the second half it's I see it closer for a while for comfort, and then Louisville plays this out.
You guys know that I'm from Ohio, and you know about my Ohio State thing. What I've mentioned a couple times in passing is that I did not actually attend the Ohio State University. I attended the Ohio University. And my pick, at the risk of turning myself into Lee Corso, Bobcats win in Louisville.
OU.
Yeah, that's good. That was good.
See, I covered them when the basketball side. There was the NCAA tournament the year that I was there, and I got really tired of the OU thing, but it happens.
It's an obvious one, and it's easy. Actually, there are actual football reasons. OU is experienced, and unlike the end of last season, OU is healthy.
Right.
I am counting on obviously a very highly touted program taking my Bobcats for granted. But OU plays well in these games. They have seen them in person. Push Ohio State much harder than anyone thought they ever could. There was an upset of Pitt at home a few years ago. We mentioned Penn State. They are used to going on the road and doing these things, and playing well and taking teams by surprise. And granted, it would be a big surprise, but I'm sticking with my Bobcats for that one. Carla, you have a thing you wanted to plug before we're done?
Sure, yeah. I'm gonna call this a shameless self-promotion segment. Yeah, I talk much. But no, and it's actually not for me. That we enjoy doing this, but if you really want to listen to two people that actually know what they're talking about, as opposed to you and me that
means you listen to Carla and somebody else, not me.
No, and I have nothing to do with it. I just happen to it's my significant other at Athlon. He and his one of his colleagues, Braden Gall, who's the host at SiriusXM, he hosts College Sports Nation a couple days a week. So yeah, he and David Fox have just launched a podcast, which is available at Athlon Sports, athlonsports.com, and it's a good listen. And I will fully go on the record right here because there's a mention in the first 5 minutes of that podcast about a Sarah Bareilles concert. And yes, I am guilty. I dragged David to the Sarah Bareilles concert. I'm not named on the show, but it was me, and it was Saturday night, and
but now we all know.
Now everybody knows it was me. I'm sorry. You had something you wanted to plug too, I think.
I did. And this is perhaps less national significance. This is something of an annual tradition at KillerNutsTailgating.com. That is my sports/tailgating blog.
And quite possibly the best URL ever.
Thank you.
I love that name.
This is something of an annual thing. This post will go live on Wednesday night, and you'll have a couple days. You'll have until Thursday afternoon. No, I'll probably take them all with me, so I can make the pick. So you'll have until Saturday morning. I ask for my readers' help in picking the boxer shorts that I wear during Ohio State football games all season long. I select one pair. I do wash them in between games, but I pick one pair. So I will have photographs and a poll, and you can, if you visit KillerNutsTailgating.com between now and about 7 o'clock Saturday morning when we get ready to go over to the stadium, you'll be able to pick the boxer shorts that I wear during the 2013 season. So
this is where I make
KillerNutsTailgating.com. Please give me some help.
I was gonna say, this is where I make a joke about your name being Uncle Crappy, right?
I washed them, really. They're clean. I washed them. Guys, thank you very much for joining us for week 1 of the Carla and Crappy Show. We will be making idiots of ourselves all season long. Me more so than Carla. I need to get
Not true.
I need to get some mascot heads or something if I'm going to do the whole Corso thing. We'll work on that for week 2.
Props for week 2?
Yeah, we'll give it a shot. Carla, Thank you very much.
Thanks as always. I'll think of you as I'm sitting in traffic tomorrow night.
Be sure to vote for my boxer shorts, will you?
Sure.
All right. Thank you, guys. We'll see you again next week. I have no shame.